Corn pudding, what's that?
What? Are you trying to tell me that you've never heard of corn pudding? She's never heard of corn pudding!
Oh no, it's a song. You just started another song.
Corn pudding, corn pudding, corn pudding, corn pudding, corn pudding, corn pudding!
Can we opt out of this?
Hi, I'm Ben Kay with Consequence. Here with Cecily Strong. Hi, Cecily. Thank you.
Hi,
so
Ben.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for taking the time here. So we're talking about Schmigadoon, which is this new, weird, wonderful, quirky musical comedy coming to Apple TV Plus. And you know, it kind of makes a lot of sense to see you in the starring role because of everything that you know. I think an audience is really familiar with you from SNL and doing all these musical bits. But for you personally, what was it like going from like singing about LaGuardia with John Mulaney to like getting serenaded by like Alan Cumming and Kristin Chenoweth and all these people?
I mean, to be honest, I love both, so I'll take them both. But I've not been serenaded by Kristin Chenoweth before, so that was very cool and inspiring, and just watching these incredible performances like right next to me. I got a lot of private shows.
You're very good.
And as a musical theater nerd, which you know I've seen you self-describe yourself as that.
Yeah.
There must have been something, you know, powerful and interesting to get to do this really intimate, really cool musical production while Broadway is closed and while we're in the middle of this pandemic. So what was that kind of emotional feeling for you, just being on set and getting to do that? This love letter.
Absolutely, it certainly was, and it's, you know, having seen the theaters shuttered is like, that's going to be one of those. There'll be pictures that affect us looking at years later. That's like the sight of a Broadway theater shuttered. And so definitely getting to do this at all, getting to be with other people in a scary time. And then kind of, we got to go to a magical place anyway. We got to go to Vancouver, and then we're on this set that's been built. And it was like running away into the magic woods for a while, and getting to be with people and say, I love you, and figure yourself out and sing and dance. And it was, you know, we lived it on screen and we lived it off screen a little bit, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of wonderful. The last thing I did right before the pandemic hit was actually see Jagged Little Pill on Broadway.
Oh, really?
I got to that like the day before everybody was like, nope, you're not doing anything. So that was kind of really cool. What were the challenges of working on this set? Like we've said, it's really tight, it's really small, deliberately so. And of course, you're filming in the middle of the pandemic, and you're filming a musical where you have to open your mouth wide and sing directly in front of somebody.
Yeah, so, and I get to kiss a couple people. So that's also, I think we really had to trust each other and, you know, keep each other safe. And it was like, if we do that, we get to make this thing. And how special is it that we get to do this?
Yeah, and your character in particular, I noticed, I watched the first 2 episodes that were sent, and there's a lot of kind of modern social norm changing coming out of particularly your character. You know, part of you is carrying the weight of having to do this musical in the middle of a pandemic, and then line-wise, you're also kind of being the mouth for this modern turn. So what was it like, you know, living in the 1940s musical world and trying to promote sort of modern changes?
Yeah, I think we definitely walked a fine line, and there were some things that were, you know, there was a lot of discussion about what's a musical trope versus what was an ugly truth of America when these movies were made, and sort of going, well, I don't want to make the ugliest things tropes musicals. You know, that's just not going to be fun to play in while we're escaping. But I think it was just, you know, what I like about Melissa is that she wasn't trying to make a point in saying any of these things. It's just like, I like having people that just go, they accept the reality and move on, you know? And so I appreciated that about her I guess what makes her the 21st century woman, it's like a male presenting person of age. She's always trying to say it right. So it's always a little bit hard. We're trying to say it right. We're trying to say things right.
Yeah, and I think that also plays into kind of the challenge of all these social changes. So
Right.
it's quirky and it's well done.
We're in a musical, okay? Nobody gets killed in a musical, except Oklahoma and Carousel and South Pacific. Oh, hello, West Side Story.
That's all the musicals.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, Barry. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for sitting with us today. So, Schmigadoon is something that seems kind of outside of what Barry Sonnenfeld is known for. You're kind of known for directing these kind of high concept, comedy things, and now you're moving on to this high concept musical thing on television. So I want to know why this particular story, this particular series, drew you enough to be like, yeah, this is something that I want to spend 2 months behind a camera figuring out how to make this work during a pandemic.
Right. Well, it is high concept, just like the other stuff. It is quirky, like Addams Family or Pushing Daisies or Men in Black. And it lets me world create, which is something I also like to do. And it's also very stage bound, and I love working on stages. What I didn't know at all, and what you're getting at, is if I would enjoy at all working on a musical. Because I'm not a musical guy. I don't seek out Carousel or Oklahoma when it's on TNT or anything like that. But Cinco Paul wrote these great scripts, and I heard some preliminary songs, and I thought it would be fun. And Cecily Strong was already involved, and I thought it would be, I really like her on Saturday Night Live. And then finally, Lorne Michaels was, to be honest with you, a big get as well, because he's producing it, and I think he's a genius at what he does. So there are a lot of reasons, the least of which was musical theater. That was the least interesting part of it for me.
I mean, that's super interesting because, I mean, you're someone who's doesn't look at Oklahoma, probably doesn't look at Brigadoon at all. Right now you have to, drive this really wonderful star-studded musical, besides, Cecily and Keegan. There's a lot of musical theater stalwarts here. So coming in as that kind of, I'm going to say outsider, what was it like working with that kind of cast, these really well-established musical theater performers?
Well, they're great. They're just so insanely talented that they can sing and dance and act. Whether it's Jane Krakowski or Aaron Zveit or Alan Cummings or Chenoweth, who I've worked with before, they're just so much fun. It's just, and so for me, I'm a film director. So what's the job of being a film director? There's only one job: consistency of tone. It is my job to make sure that there's one tone, and that it's the same tone in all 6 episodes and in all 200 scenes. And you create tone by answering 1,000 questions a week. Do you want her in a dress or a skirt? Do you want the green file folder or the red one? And by answering thousands of questions, you create tone. Do you want to cast this guy or this guy? And all those accumulations of thousands of questions create tone.
Right.
So for me on the set, it's just saying to the actors, don't be funny, be real. Talk faster. If they talk fast, then they can't act. So, so yes, I've never done a musical before, but having seen the 6 episodes, it doesn't look like I haven't done a musical before.
Sure.
So, that's the fun.
Yeah, and you said earlier that like you really like working on like a closed set, and there is something super confined about these sets. They're very small and they're very particular. And in terms of setting tone and working with that kind of thing, like how did the sets kind of help you set that tone?
Right, because the sets help set the tone because you want to be able to control everything. You want to be able to control a perfect sunset or a beautiful blue sky, or and if you shoot on real exteriors, maybe it's cloudy, maybe it's raining, maybe it's too cold, maybe it's too sunny, maybe it's too contrasty. And this was all about control, palette control in the colors of buildings, to the colors of dresses, to petticoats. So Bo Welsh, the production designer, and I are all about control. And by being on these stages, we created the backgrounds. We created the size of the bridge, the stream, all that stuff that you would never be able to do if you went to real locations.
Right. Well, it looks beautiful.
And you also want that artifice. You want enough artifice that you're kind of on a stage, and it's kind of like an MGM musical where at some point there's a foreground and a midground, and then you hide the scenic painted background behind the rocks or whatever. Yeah.
Right. It adds to that feeling of not quite realism that the characters are experiencing.